All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let me read some Revelation 13 by this guy, Bullinger. Okay. All right. I was just look. All right. Actually, verse 17 of chapter 12. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war. I'm going to go live on Facebook for this. Something to do. All right. There we go. This is a little Revelation chapter. Well, it's just chapter 12, verse 17. Commentary by Bullinger. E.W. Bullinger. All right. I shall do verse 16 of chapter 12. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And why not? The sea helped the same woman when it swallowed up the armies of Pharaoh. And why should not the earth help the woman again by swallowing up the forces of Satan? It is to be again as it was at the Exodus, and it will be a time of earthquakes and great physical disturbances. In Isaiah, it's like 59:19, we read of the enemy coming in like, quote, a flood, end quote, just before, quote, the Redeemer shall come to Zion, end quote, and when Gentile times shall come to the full. The earth once opened to swallow the host of Dathan and Abiram. And so it is written, quote, according to the days of the coming up out of the land of Egypt, I will show unto him marvelous things. Micah 7:15. Verse 17 of chapter 12 of Revelation, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the rest of her seed who keep the commandments of God and have or keep the testimony of Jesus. Being baffled in his attempts to destroy the seed of the woman, who has been, ere this, quote, caught away to God and his throne, end quote. He turns his forces against the remnant of her seed. The description of this remnant is given and agrees with that spoken of in other parts of this book. And while the bulk of the nation is safe and nourished, a faithful remnant on earth is having war made against it. We have these two seeds in chapter 7. First, the 144,000 sealed for testimony in the earth, and afterwards, the great multitude caught away to heaven. In the next chapter, they are called saints. And we have the two bodies again, the former in chapter 13, verse 15, and the latter in chapter 6, verse 9. The Textus Receptus, the first sentence of the first verse of chapter 13, is the concluding sentence of the 12th chapter, but the AV wrongly transposes it and puts it as the first sentence in chapter 13. The translators were doubtless misled by the wrong reading of the Textus Receptus, which has estathen, estathen, I stood, instead of estathe, he stood, the dragon, i.e., the dragon. The RV agreeing with the LTT little RA and the WH has restored the sentence to its proper place at the close of chapter 12, verse 17, and given the correct reading, he stood, in accordance with all the critical Greek text and oldest and best manuscripts. The structure on page 414 shows that this must be right, as that sentence is necessary in order to balance the first sentence of chapter 12, verse 13. It is the dragon who has been cast into the earth, and it is the same dragon who stands on the sand of the sea, foiled in his attempts to destroy the woman's seed, as he had been foiled in his assault on the woman herself. He is now seen by John standing on the sand of the sea, and from thence, as it were, calling up the first of the two beasts from the abyss to carry out his final plans. So this section ends with the words, and he stood upon the sand of the sea, i.e., upon the shore. Daniel saw this same, quote, great sea, end quote, and the four winds of heaven striving upon it. Daniel 7, verse 2. Before proceeding to the second great division of this fourth vision, quote, on earth, end quote, it may be well to read and study carefully Daniel 7, 7, 8, chapter 7, verse 7 and 8, and verses 19 through 27, which treats of the manifestation of Satan's power in the two powers of chapter 13, in their final superhuman form and in their obsessed spirit characters. All right, a big X, page 413. Let's see. That may be chapter 10 or so. I'm not sure how it is, but either way, it's on Revelation 13, 1 through 18. The result of the, quote, war in heaven, end quote, as regards the earth at large. We have seen and considered the result of the, quote, war in heaven, end quote, as it concerns Israel. Page 414. Let's see. We have now to consider its further effect as it concerns the earth at large. This effect is twofold, inasmuch as it results in the rise of the two beasts, the one from the sea, the other from the earth. The description of these two, the beast and the false prophet, occupies the whole chapter 13. The chapter is divided thus: verses 1 through 18, the twofold result as regards the earth at large. Let me do this. Good morning. Page 413. Is this Revelation 13, verse 1 through 18 says, the twofold result. The twofold result as regards the earth at large. All right. I guess. Let's see here. Say 1 through 10. Say beast from the sea. And then verse 11 through 18, beast from the earth. All right. It says, let's see, Y and Z are now to be expanded. They concern the last mighty form of satanic reincarnation. The one is Antichrist, another is anti spirit, the other is anti God, thus completing the infernal trinity. These two, the beast and the false prophet, are described in 7 particulars, and the two members marked Y and Z are arranged precisely in the same order. They are given in a corresponding extended parallelism, of which the last members of each are divided into 2. These 2 being arranged as an introversion. Introversion. The following is the structure. Okay, so this is the structure. Show it to you. Okay. It says this structure is already so minute and exhaustive that none of its members have or need any expansion. It completes the effect of the war in heaven so far as it regards the earth at large, as distinct from Israel, and concludes the 4th vision on earth. After the failure of Satan's attempt to destroy Israel, the woman's seed, John sees him standing on the sand or shore of the sea, as though pondering over, weighing, and forming his future plans. And while thus occupied, John sees the outcome in the beast, which rises as though at Satan's call out of the sea. The beast of chapter 4 are, in parentheses, as we have seen, close parentheses, Zoe, and are rendered by us as Zoe, and in singular, Zoan. This is uh, Therion, a wild beast or a beast of prey. The text supplies us with the divine information given on this great subject. All right, let's see. 13:1. Okay, here's chapter 13, verse 1. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and upon his horns 10 diadems, and upon his heads blasphemous names. This is the beast in his superhuman stage. Already he has been on the earth for, it looks like, maybe 3.5 years in his mortal stage. He then receives his death wound, mentioned below in verse 3, as the 7th head, and comes up out of the abyss as the, 8th king, comprising all the 7 heads and the 10 horns. These are in their now superhuman form, crowned. In their mortal form, they were not crowned. All right. All right. I hope everybody's doing good. Doing the Facebook FPC Rosen page as soon as it gets ready. It will be better to defer the interpretation of the heads and horns of the beast until we come to chapter 17, where we consider it with greater advantage. The Holy Spirit has confined himself here to an outline description or brief. Not sure why this isn't working out. where we can consider it with greater advantage. The Holy Spirit has confined himself here to an outline description or brief statement as to the general characteristics of these two beasts, while in chapter 17 he has explained them more fully. It will be well, therefore, for us to follow on these lines and content ourselves now by content ourselves by the general statement that we have here something far beyond Rome, papal or pagan, something far beyond the quote fourth beast end quote or Roman Empire, as it is called. We have all the world powers and all dominion in the earth gathered up and concentrated in this one sign. We see them in their superhuman form here in the apocalypse, as we see them in their human or mortal form in Daniel. It is the whole image of Daniel chapter 2 in its superhuman form, which we see here, rather than one of its mortal parts. In all caps, it is the image revived as a whole. Uh, it reaches to, quote, wheresoever the children of men dwell. It affects all that dwell upon the earth. Revelation 8, I'm sorry, 13, 8. All right, when the time for these final judgments arrives, the great stone falls. It smites the image upon the feet. It is true in Daniel 2:34, but it is immediately added, quote, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, and the gold broken to pieces together. Daniel 2:35. This is far more extended than the Roman Empire. It takes in the whole earth. In fact, all earthly power and all worldly dominion in its final consummation. Hence, all the heads and horns of the various successive powers are here combined and united in one, forming the embodiment of all political sovereignty on the earth. There is to be no other during its existence, and there will be none but our Lord's and his Christ after it's gone. In chapter 17, we have them separately and can so consider them when we come to that chapter. Verse 2 of chapter 13 of Revelation. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. We are at a loss to understand how this can be the Roman Empire revived. For the beast itself is like a leopard, Greece, Daniel 7:6. Its feet are those of the bear, Medo, Persia, and its mouth is like a lion's mouth, Babylon. Where is the Roman Empire here in any form? If the beast be the Roman Empire, does he have himself intact for one of his own heads? The motion is the notion is only a venerable but vain imagination. Rome cannot be at the same time one of the heads, and yet the whole beast himself. Quote, one is, end quote, chapter 17, verse 10. That is said to be the Roman Empire, but it is added, quote, the other is not, end quote. Is this the Roman Empire too? Clearly not. What we have here is the embodiment and personification of the sovereignty of the world under satanic power, for, quote, the whole world lieth, in parentheses, in the power of, close parentheses, the wicked one. When we say personification, we must recognize the spirit being from the abyss, i.e., the superhuman agent through whom he works, as Satan delegates this special mission to the beast, a superhuman being. So does the beast act through a human being by obsession or in some other way, God here takes us behind the scenes and shows us the satanic machinery by which the whole thing is operated. While the people on see only a man, quote, the man, end quote, they may know nothing of the power of the abyss behind him and out of which he comes. I gotta go use the restroom. All right, I'll catch you a little bit later.